Hey, I'm on. Good morning. How are you? Good. I'm very happy to be here. I've never been here at Unity of Nashville. I am Reverend Sonja Mathis. Recently licensed and ordained, so watch out. We don't know what I might do. But happy to be here with you this morning. Thank you very much, Don. The music row, I think I almost parked there this morning, but I got it together. But thank you. You all are wonderful, beautiful. Thank you, Reverend Christina, for allowing me to be here. I met her at the convention, and I'm glad the way things have come together. So I got my timer on because she gave me my directions. So let me tell you, I'm a lot into merging science and spirituality and religion. They need to come together. They've always been at one, with one. One meant atonement. And so I'm going to bring a little of that into our talk today and some other things I want to share with you. Of course, I'm sure you all have classes here on Unity, so we're going to talk a little bit about some quotes from Charles Fillmore, and it's going to come down to how much I can move through my info. But I'm going to start with a quote by French physicist Bernard Espinat, and I regret not having the PowerPoints. I would have created those for you. But the quote that I'm using from him is, "The world is not made up of separate material objects embedded in space-time, but of a non-separable, indivisible field, a veiled reality with which consciousness interact." So the world is not made up of separate objects, but an indivisible field with which consciousness interacts. And I thought that was interesting, the differentiation with consciousness, because in Unity, we do talk about consciousness a lot. We say it's a sense of awareness, of knowing, of course, but in Unity, if you ever take a Unity class, Charles Fillmore teaches us consciousness actually entails three different things: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind. And so the superconscious mind is the one mind, the realm of ideas, the divine place. That's where in the beginning, with the whole Adam and Eve story, it was supposed to be from your conscious mind, which we all know is just your walking, your talking, your eating, what you're doing now, what you plan to do later. And it was supposed to be directly connected to the superconscious mind, that one mind that all divine ideas come from. And so the purpose of Jesus and Buddha and the Prophet Muhammad were to recreate that bridge, because the subconscious mind came into play, and that's where that's where we spend a lot of our time. Not only is that your prior thoughts and those of your family, that's the collective race thought. So you're connected with any thought that ever existed amongst humankind. The issue with that is there's a lot of fear. That's fear-based. And so we do a lot of thinking from our subconscious mind, which is why we have to go into prayer and meditation. We have to stay, as the old church used to say, you got to stay prayed up so that you can be on that higher vibration, so we can be in that superconscious mind. So now Charles Fillmore says in the atom-smashing power of mind, he says superconsciousness is the goal towards which humanity is moving and working. Regardless of appearances, there's an upward trend toward continuity, active throughout all creation. The superconscious is the realm of divine ideas. Its character is impersonal. It therefore has no personal ambitions, knows no condemnation, but is always pure, innocent, loving, and obedient to the call of God. So I like the phrase, "there is no condemnation," and that immediately reminded me of Paul in the book of Romans 8, where he starts off with, "There is no condemnation in those who are in Christ Jesus." Those who are in the Christ consciousness, that mind, because the superconscious is of that consciousness. It's always uplifting. It's always regenerating. It's always restoring us. So I'm going to go back to the science part of this, just to back up the idea that we just had of we're all connected and we're all one. Scientific American journalist George Musser said in 2015, he was speaking about the idea of, last week I did a talk on non-locality. I'm real big on merging science and spirituality, as I said, but he gave a continuing definition to go along with the French physicist I just gave you. And he says that any healing that occurs, any correction that occurs on the level of the particle, the quantum particle, also occurs on the cosmic level. And he went on to say it also occurs on the meso level. So I did a little research, and so you got these three levels. You got your micro level, your meso level, and your macro level. The micro level is us. We're individuals. We're the micro. So any work we do, like Mr. George Musser just says, any healing or work that's done on that particle, micro level, he says affects the meso level. And meso is institutions. Those are societies. Those are organizations. Macro is societal. But I thought it was interesting, because I'm a financial counselor by trade, I spend a lot of time with people in their budgets, and they're looking for a way out. Something's got to give, something's got to give. And so when the idea first started floating out about this student loan forgiveness program, people said, oh, I hope this happens, I hope this happens, I hope this happens. So on the individual level, on that micro level, it was a lot of blessings and prayers going out, this would happen. And this week, on that meso level, Biden made his announcements. And there's a lot of joy out there over the fact that there are things that are going to go forth that's going to benefit a lot of people. Now, everybody won't get the benefit for whatever reason, but it's something. It's something. And so I thought that was interesting as well. So I want to go here to the next thing. Philippians 4:17 says, not that I seek the gift, but the fruit that abounds to your account. And so I'm going to tie that back into what just happened this week with Biden. That is a gift. That is a gift. And because there were so many prayers going forth that people will have the easing of their economic situation, because that's a real problem. Debt is a real problem in our society. And so this is the beginning of a gift, because so many people were holding that vibration, holding that thing within themselves, as Charles Fillmore said, that substance, that underlying thing that creates all, that creates all, restores all, regenerates all. Something has now gone forth. And so some people might be saying, well, that's not enough. But it's something. The energy is moving. The energy is nothing like this has ever been done before. Nothing like this has ever been done before. And so that might not be your idea of a gift. Whatever your idea of the gift, like Paul was saying to the Philippians in this book, I don't seek the gift, I seek the fruit. I seek the fruit. And in unity, we're taught that the fruit is what comes from the gift. The gift is merely a manifestation of the gifts of the Spirit. The gifts of the Spirit are joy, peace, freedom, new ideas, creation. And so what can come from the idea, what can come from being freed from this amount of whatever your student loan might have been? That's not the end. And so when we get lost, when we get confused, is we take the gift and we make the gift everything. We make the gift, the car, the house, whatever it is, we make that everything, not understanding what are the fruits of the gift. And if you can stay focused on what are your fruits, then you create an inlet and an outlet of ever-flowing manifestation. You never run out. You never run out. But when you get focused on the smallness of just the gift, then you'll have a few good moments, you'll have a few good days, but it'll soon stop because you're not allowing the flow. You've gotten caught in, like Paul said, I don't seek the gift, I seek the fruits. And when you seek the fruits, it just continues, it just continues, it just continues. And that's when you get stories of people, they don't know how they're going to start the business. They don't know how they're going to raise these children. They don't know how any of these things are going to happen. But when they stay focused on the joy, the beauty, the freedom, the peace, just being able to speak to other people and uplift them, then the goodness just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. Loans get approved. Promotions happen. Cars, all of a sudden, you thought it was going to be a bigger issue, and the mechanic tells you, oh, it's just a fuel pump. You don't need a new engine, whatever it is. Things just keep happening. And so in this teaching, it's important that we remember, because we're professing to be metaphysicians, alchemists. We have to constantly be going beyond what we see, beyond what we even think we know, and stay open to a greater knowing. Also knowing that we are connected. We aren't looking at anyone. There's no less of God anywhere. Atlanta's pretty southern, and Nashville's southern too. And I was saying before, it was common to hear people say, such and such ain't got no God in them. They ain't got no God. And that was a common thing, along with bless your heart. If you hear somebody say bless your heart, you're not from the South, you just got told off. Just know that. You just got nicely told off. And so there's no less of God anywhere. And so what that means is, let's give an example of the sun like I did before. The sun never goes away. The sun doesn't take vacations. The sun doesn't decide to go visit another cosmos or anything such as that. Because of the rotation of the sun and certainly there are clouds that day, there can be less of the sun, but the sun did not go away. And that's the same as with God. There's no less of God. We can block God, we can delay God, we can turn away, but that separation is an illusion. That's not real, like so many other things that we do. That is not real. So the idea of when you're open to what the gifts are, that is what love is. I know in our society we spend a lot of time making love about who called who and who texted who and who bought what for whom. And that's a form of, you can use that. But once again, that's tying yourself to the gift and not the spirit. What is that relationship? How does it fuel you? How does it feed you? What do you get from it that you can give others in the world? That's what you get from that, because that's what love is. And we can go to 1 Corinthians 13:7. Love always rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, loves all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. So when we come together and truly recognize that we are one, there's nothing separate, and perhaps I don't need the same thing you need, but we all have a need. And when I stand in the gap for you and you stand in the gap for me, we become an inlet and an outlet of providing and helping one another be supplied for all that we need. But when we get fixated on, this is mine, this is who I am, this is yours, this is who you are, then we all suffer. Because even those who appear to have more, they don't have all they need. They don't have all they need. And so we block ourselves from our own thoughts, we create our own lack and limitation when we're not truly open to who and whose we are. So we're always divinely connected. And I want to end with, well, not end so much, but I want to share with you a poem, because one of the things I like about the idea of always growing and extending yourself. There's a poem by Oliver Wendell Holmes called The Chambered Nautilus. And I love one of my favorite poems. And the last stanza, before I even get to the last stanza, he's compared a nautilus to a ship. And so he starts off by saying, this ship of pearl. And so he's saying the ship of pearl, that he's comparing the nautilus body to the shell. The shell, like a ship. And like this body, is the true essence of what and who we are is our soul. And so the whole poem is about the nautilus life, the nautilus death, and then the reemergence in a new house. And so then in the next verse he says, the wrecked ship of pearl. Because when we go through things just like this nautilus did, we can appear to be lifeless. We can appear to be dead, the walking dead. But there's always an undercurrent. There's an inlet and an outlet. There's a release. There's a new growth that's happening if we're open to it and we're not fearful of it. And in the end, he thanks the nautilus for these heavenly blessings, the example that the nautilus has given with his own life of life, death, and reemergence, just as we learned from the Christ experience. So the last stanza, he says, build thee more stately mansions, O my soul, as the swift seasons roll. Leave thy low vaulted past. Make each templar more nobler than the last. Make each temple more nobler than the last. Shut thee from heaven with a dome more vast. Till at length I am free, leaving my outgrown shell by the unresting sea. And so when we leave that shell by the unresting sea, what we're learning is what we teach in Unity. When it no longer represents who and whose we are, release it. Release it. I don't care what it was, the identity, the idea, the title. When it no longer represents who and who we are, release it, because there's something greater. Like he said, build thee more stately mansions. But you can't move into that consciousness. Now, we're only talking about consciousness. Not only. Everything starts spirit. Whatever we're seeing, the manifestations of the gifts, like I said earlier, the gifts are the manifestations of what we first see in spirit. So this poem to me is a beautiful reminder that when we stay open and receptive, we don't have to be fearful of the dying, those things in our part in our life that have come to an end, and they're ready to be put to rest. Ideas, names, whatever it was, just like this nautilus is showing us through Oliver Wendell's home beautiful poem. Let it stay by the sea. And the sea represents the consciousness. We can change that consciousness. We can move into a different understanding. And when we do that, we give everyone an example We are an example to each other, and your strength empowers somebody else. Somebody's looking at you saying, how is he or she going to get that done? But when you do it, they see how they can do it. It's like the whole thing with Biden. Now that this has been put in place, nothing's been put in place like this now. So many people are now going to have the hope to hope for more. No, maybe not in this way, maybe not student loans, but just the idea of different ways, because like I said, a lot of people in the U.S. are suffering from just burden-crushing debt. And some people just feel like this is what I have to accept. It doesn't take but one idea to start a new idea of a way of being in the world. All right, so that's what we want to keep in mind. I want to end with a poem because a lot of times, when you're having to change your mind, change your thoughts, you come across people, they're not ready for you to change your mind, change your thoughts. A lot of times you get a lot of energy of, who are you? Who are you to think you don't have to have these problems such as I? So I found this poem by Gwendolyn Brooks, and I wish I had it up on the PowerPoint, but I'm going to read it to you. It's called The Speech to the Youth. She wrote it in 1991. She was the first African-American Pulitzer Prize winner in 1950, and she was the poet laureate for a while as well. She said, say to them, say to the downkeepers, the sun slappers, the harmony hushers, the soil soilers, even if you are not ready for day, it cannot always be night. You will be right. For that is the hard home run. You will be right, for that is the hard home run. Live not for battles won. Live not for the end of the song. Live in the along. Live in the long. How many of us spend time saying, I'll be glad when this is over? When I get through this, I'm going to do things different. And what happens is you're never in the present moment, because actually you're in the future. And you're going, God, when this is over, I'm going to do it different. But when all your power, all our power is in the present moment. When we're not truly attuned to the present, and when we finally get to the end, we don't know how to make the changes because we weren't fully present when we were going through it. It's very important to stay in the present. Stay in the along. Like she just said, stay in the along. And then you always have the power and the presence within yourself to know, what do I need to do for that to never be my experience again? What do I need to do so that I can be example to my children, my grandchildren, my neighbors, my employers, my employees, my fellow associates, and even the people at the grocery store? What can I be an example to them that he or she walks taller? I heard what they were going through, and everybody had written them off. This is how you become a commodity. We look to celebrities. Everyone in here is a star. Everyone in here has a ministry. Everyone in here is a ministering spirit. And so people such as myself come to remind you, but I have nothing that you don't have. And so just remembering some basic things, that we're all one. We're part of an indivisible field. The Christ consciousness resides in each of us. We have a power and an influence that if we pay attention, because the news media is really good at putting certain things in our faces, and we don't have to look at them and take that breath in like that's all there is. First of all, remember where you are on that micro level. What is it that you're putting out on that micro level every day in your thought, in your speech, in your breath, that affects the meso, your organizations, the places that you touch, that affects the societal. That's all Jesus was trying to teach us. And he did. Some of us heard a little bit more, and we continue to study, because not only is it important, it is who we are. Jesus said himself, greater things shall you do. Let's begin to not just know it and believe it. Let's begin to do it. Let's begin to do those things, because that is who we are. All right, I want to thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to share with you. I hope I've shared something that has affected change on your life in some way. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Mathis. Thank you very much. Let me take just a minute and take us into a moment of meditation before we go. And I invite you to settle yourself physically, find a comfortable place to sit, you have a comfortable place to sit, but find a comfortable place to be and relax your mind for a moment. If it's comfortable, close your eyes. I want to remind you that we're moving now from a space of chronological time into a space of spiritual time. Time moves differently here. And as we settle ourselves, we move into that core of our being. We move into that part of us that connects with everything else. And in this moment, feel that undercurrent. Feel your soul rooted in the flow of everything that is alive and has ever been alive and is ever will be alive. Find yourself in this safe, connected space and take a moment and feel your connected being. I'd invite you now to come back to this physical space and time. Remember that what you've done here today is a good thing. Your mere presence is a part of being in that field, contributing to the world of love. As I said to the board recently, we are a bright, blue, shiny dot in a sea of fear and pain. And it's ours and our job to be here and to bring our love and space into the world. Thank you, David.